Austin here again, and I'm going to show you all how I design beautiful pages that actually convert. Now, we use ClickFunnels, and so I'm going to be using that as an example. However, all of these techniques and all of these design hacks, you could say, essentially could be used on any platform. Doesn't matter if you're using Instapage, Squarespace, or WordPress even. But if you're using ClickFunnels, then this training is going to be absolute gold. Let's go ahead and dive on in. All right, so here we are in my ClickFunnels account, and this is the beginning of my funnel. I've laid it all out here in order for me to be able to quickly find what I'm looking for. But I want to really stress something right now up front, is there's a difference between design and then high converting design. I think that there's a balancing act that you have to do between what looks good and then what converts. And I don't think, in my personal opinion and the opinion of everybody here at Proof, that you always need to sacrifice design for conversion. And I don't think that you always need to sacrifice conversion for design. I believe that there is a good middle in between. I think that we represent that as a company, and in our culture, we we make sure that everything looks really good, but only to a point where it doesn't hurt conversion. So everything is still conversion focused. Let's go ahead and hop on in here to my page editor. So what you'll notice right away is that there's no navigation bar, and this is on purpose. It's not like I forgot it. You'll increase your conversion if you don't have a navigation bar. In fact, whenever you have a page that you're sending traffic to, don't give them any other option other than doing the one thing that you want them to do. Not two things, not three things. Only have one thing that they can do on your page. This is not a time for them to look at your pricing or look at your about page. You want them to continue down the funnel in the way that you've designed it for them to go down. All right, so you're telling your story along the way. That's why you want to always get rid of your navigation, is you never put in pieces of your story that would distract them. That's a distraction. It's not going to increase conversion. So remove any form of communication, like email us or support or anything like that. Here, you want to make sure you remove that, and you only maybe put this for branding's sake up at the very top. Now, there's a few pieces of this opt-in that I want to really break down, but I want to make sure that I'm not kind of diving too much into the weeds, and I'm making sure that this training is applicable to anybody running any kind of business, whether it is an info business or a SaaS or a physical product or a service. Doesn't matter what you're selling. Everything that I'm going to teach you here today in design is going to be applicable across the board. So first things first, there is a high contrast on this page. You'll notice that it's a dark background with a very light text. I actually believe that this is pure white. So if this is header 1, then this is subheader 1, and it's essentially going to be the exact same color, but what you're going to do is then go into here and bring down the opacity to 50%. And this is because you don't want it to be distracting away from this, but this actually just looks better. In fact, if I made this 100% opacity, you'd see that maybe it just looks a little off. I don't believe that this looks as good. What you want to do is like here, if this is the main header, then this is your objection tackler is what I really think about this subheader as. So I'm going to bring this down here to 50% again. So exclusive case study, sometimes I'll say 100% free case study, or basically a free PDF download. What are they actually getting? What's the tangible thing? Coupon, video series. This is where I tell them the thing that they're going to get. This details exactly what the result of what they'll find in this is. So discover, I always use the word discover instead of learn, how we increased our website conversion. So this is what I'm applying it to. And then I found that by writing copy that has specific numbers, not round numbers, but specific numbers, converts better. And then this is a takeaway sentence. So essentially in under 72 hours, it's like adding on to this. So even if I remove this, it's not as powerful. You'll notice, watch. Discover how we increase our website conversion rate by 338%. That's cool. But then on top of that, in under 72 hours. All right. Now this is very straightforward and to the point. And then I want them to know how is this going to be delivered. So it's going to be delivered in a case study, but with 3 simple psychology secrets. And at the end of this, I always kind of break down a objection handler. All right, so this is that work with any product. I believe that that's the number one thing that people think of when they see this is, well, is this going to work with my product though? Yeah, it is, because even though this is a case study about what works for us, I want you all to know that these 3 simple secrets are going to work with your product too. But with claims, you cannot say it's going to work for you. So I just want to say it's going to work in general. So I just say that work with any product, because this is something you have to have legally, from Facebook and stuff like that. You aren't allowed to do claims that this is going to work for you. You have to just say it's going to work in general. And so that's why this is positioned in a way to be a case study on us. All right. So I know that a lot of that was technical, but it is something that we apply to pretty much every funnel. So I basically want to say that it's important that you know these small things up front, even though they don't deal with design specifically. The designer has to know these things. Okay, you'll also notice that the button is a bright color. It doesn't matter if it's bright blue, or in the past we've used bright orange. I'll bring up, actually, you know what? Why don't I just do that now? I'll show you another page that's pretty much the exact same structure to show you that this is used in several other instances. Let's go down to so very similar funnel, and I'll show you here. Notice the close similarities between these two. Yeah. So you guys see the similarities? Company name, 100% free consultation cheat sheet, company name, case study, all right? And then one thing I didn't do here, but it's just a different in positioning, is you could also do it like this. I'm calling out who I want to download this thing. Here I didn't do that, but essentially anybody that wants to increase website conversion. So it's implicit here rather than explicit here. So digital marketing consultation cheat sheet. The result is to land high-ticket clients. Notice that this is in red and this is in gray. So this is the result of what they're going to get: who, what, and then why. And then this is going to be a social proof indicator used by hundreds of digital marketers to land. This is the result that they're going to get. Pretty much this is also an objection handler. Are other people using this? Yes, hundreds of others of people are using this thing. And what's their result? They're getting 1,500 to $5,000 per month clients. And so this is a bright orange, while this is a bright blue. Slightly different design, but it's also slightly different branding. This is more on brand. These really bright colors and stuff, and all of this is more like the Entrepreneur Alliance branding, while the branding here for proof is very much blues and whites and grays. All right, so while I still kept the design, I also need to make sure that it converts as well. So I didn't sacrifice all design or all conversion for design. All right, so I also want to bring up a funny split test. And if you've read our case study here that I'm actually talking about, I bring up the logos in this case study. And so what's interesting about the test that we ran, I actually have it here, I'm going to be flipping through it, is that when we ran the test between the two logos, between this logo here and we swapped it out for this logo here, I want you all to think, what's the difference in conversion? Obviously, anybody can be an Amazon seller. Anybody can get on Kickstarter, and you can sign up for Clarity. These 3 podcasts are pretty small. I mean, this one, I guess, is somewhat big. But overall, like, almost anybody can get logos like this. However, this is more some of our recent logos. We've been featured on Entrepreneur and ABC and the Foundation, etc. And this is a little bit harder. Guess how much it increased our conversions? Literally 0 by switching out the two. So know that it doesn't matter that what the quality of the logo is, just matters that you have logos. But because by adding on logos, we increased our conversion rate by 19% on our pages by adding on this logo bar. And so literally when we didn't have this logo, we just deleted this, our conversion rate was 19% less. So out of all of the people that went here, 19% less put in their email address. Now this is a 2-step order form, meaning that, or opt-in page, meaning that they click on here, they put in their name and email address, and then they send the case study. I want to kind of be clear here is I want to first show them that they're almost complete. And actually I can just show you here on how this works. So when I'm building this, I essentially open up my pop-up settings, click here, and this is a progress bar. I pull the exact same, one thing I want to be clear here with design is that design is mostly about consistency and numbers. I know that's kind of weird to think because most of the time you would think creativity, but it's almost all good design is based on numbers and consistency. So the exact same blue is used consistently here. And as when I talk about numbers, I'm talking about margins and padding. So margins is the amount of space on the outside of a box, and padding is the amount of space on the inside of a box. So here, I look at the top margin, increases my space above that. So I believe I had it at 10 here. And when I look at my opt-in, I've always found that the design works best with a simple design. So I always use, where is it? Clean, simple input. That's my default. It seems to work the best. I haven't split tested, but when I put all these things together, it always does really well. Also, I am pretty intricate, I want to say. So you're going to get, I've been designing for a while. I started a branding agency back in the day, and then I started selling marketing services. So I know my stuff here. And one thing I want to be particular about is I have found personally rounded corners work really well. And the psychology behind it is the idea that it's soft, and I like to think it's huggable. When I put in my cursor here, it's almost being hugged. And I'm with my icons, I always like an icon that sends them forward. So notice here an overall essence is that there's contrast. My eye is focused on the bright blue thing in the middle of the screen. I wanted all the icons are representative of the next step that I want them to do. So the down arrows mean that it's downloading the case study. And I also like using drop shadows. Now by default, some of the drop shadows that they have here I just go down here to drop shadow. I actually have no shadow on this. And the reason why is I have custom CSS. What I'll do is, I guess I'll below this video in the training section, I'll make a, what's it called? A Google Doc, and I'll put my custom CSS to put a drop shadow like ours here. So what I would do is go to custom CSS, and essentially what you're going to do is go here, get my custom CSS, get my button, bam, and my button is right here. So keep the A, and now if you let's say you want to do another button, let's say I wanted to duplicate this, notice that the button style did not transfer over because it's a different tag. So what I need to do is click on here, custom CSS, get this button, go up here, and comma. See if that did it. Nope, because I need to have A. All right, there we go. Now you have the exact same button style as we do. All right, so let me go ahead and show you something else that's pretty cool. So to make your life easier, you'll want to try and systemize all of this as much as you can, because obviously if you put a lot of work into making one page really pretty, you want to be able to transfer that over to your other pages. So like I said at the beginning of this training, most good design comes from consistency in the brand and numbers, using the right math. So I always use the exact same font, Montserrat, and 36 font for all of my headers, the main thing that I want them to see on the page. All of this, you'll see, is Montserrat 36 across the entire board. Doesn't matter. Whenever I use a header, I use Montserrat 36. That's just our personal brand. Doesn't mean that Montserrat's the highest converting, but the point in the lesson here is that use the exact same header throughout your entire funnel. You don't want this to be, I don't know, what's another font over here? Roboto, and then up here is Montserrat. You don't want to switch them up. You also want to continue alternating. So know when to use a dark and when to use a light and when to use a color. So for example, whenever I have this dark blue, I always use the same exact white. Or whenever I use a white background, I always use this dark gray font here. Even though it's still Montserrat 36, the color is, for the highest contrast, gonna be a very dark gray, for example, here, or dark blue would also look pretty good. But I never want to use jet black. I never want to use 0000, right? Because this is not a real color in real life. In fact, what you always want to do is use the exact same dark gray. Now, it doesn't matter if it's this gray or an even darker version of that. That's not the point. But the point is to use the exact same gray over and over again, because jet black does not show up in real life. You don't want to actually use jet black in your design. It makes it harder to read, in fact. There's a lot of tests done on black versus dark gray, and dark gray actually always wins. The second thing I want to be clear about is your small text. What you want to do is, for small text, to make it readable, is use something like a Roboto or a Lotto. These two are very easy to read, but overall, a sans serif. These are meant to be read even when they're super small. I actually don't like Oswald, so don't use Oswald, or actually don't use any of these bottom ones. Stick between these three up top. Open Sans is super good, Roboto or Lotto. Those are always three pretty safe examples for your text here. It's going to be very easy to read, even when it's super small. You can still read that from far away. It's why a lot of magazines and publications use this in design. Now, to make this even easier, a great consistency hack is to be able to save your sections like this, rows, columns, or sections by going over here, clicking save, and let's say I want to use this exact same section, so I never have to redo this process or trying to figure out, what colors should I use and what font and all that. What I'm just going to do is save this section as, for example, here, proof customers section. And there we go. Now I've made a template. So in the future, if I want to add a section on here, I'm going to go to My Sections, and I can, I haven't saved this page. So if I go over here, I'm going to save, exit. If I came back, for example, it's going to show up. I don't want to go through all that right now. But essentially, these are all my saved sections. So for example, in the past, I have my proof, Facebook reviews, and testimonials. So I can just add in that section. Look how pretty that is. I never have to redo all of that work again. You guys see how amazing that is? It saves you a ton of time, and you can start making your funnels quicker than ever before. So why is that good? Well, let me show you how I've used that in other pieces. In my funnel, I have a 3-day follow-up sequence. Now, this is a story. This is a extra value add, and here, this is a case study. So essentially, all of these are the exact same landing page. The only difference is the text, that text here, and also the video. You'll notice it's literally the exact same thing. Now, how did I do this between all my funnels? Well, simply enough, I just saved all of these as sections and built it in probably less than 5 minutes or so for each one. It's literally the exact same landing page. All I now have to do is edit the template. You guys see how easy it is? It saves you dozens of hours in building your funnel. On top of that, it makes sure that you have consistency throughout your brand. Now, this is another one of my personal trademarks, but I found that it does increase conversion and it helps emphasize your point, is creating what looks like a little card, a little pop-up that doesn't actually pop up. You can see here, it supports what Dave is going to be saying in this video, but it has its own space, its own real estate on the page. Now, the way I've created this effect here is it's a 2-section. And you can see the difference between padding and margin. Margin would be what's on the outside of this column, and then padding is what's on the inside. So what I've done here is I go to my columns, and I go to column number 2. I'm going to edit this column specifically. So now I'm only dealing with this side. And then what I'm going to do is give it some padding on the inside, so I can increase that from the top down. I want to give that about 15%. Try and keep this consistent all the way around so it actually looks like a card, because if all of these were 0, that would look really gross. Obviously that doesn't look good. But then if you if you made this one, let's say 50, and all the other ones 25 or 15 even, that looks really bad too. It just looks inconsistent. So again, consistency is the key. On the advanced, I also, like I said, like to give my products a soft feeling here. The design has to be soft. And so I give my radius 5s around the way. And I also want to separate this from the background. So what I'm going to do is take the original color, and then I'm going to just make it slightly darker than the inside here. So not a lot, but just a little bit here to give it that extra pop. And on top of that, I'm going to add a drop shadow. Now, you could do a normal drop shadow, but what I like to do is use the custom CSS. And I have a lot of custom CSS here on this page, but essentially giving it that drop shadow look, and make it the exact same drop shadow here that I have it on my buttons and also on my video here. And so you'll notice I also give my video a little border as well. Now you'll notice that I actually made this this column here desktop only, and I did that by going over to columns and click here, and I made this desktop only. But let's say that I want to make it all. Okay, I'll just show you what that looks like. And the reason why I did this here is because when I make it here, it just doesn't look good, right? This is what mobile would look like, and I just hate the way that looks. Obviously, it's ugly, and so I don't really think that it increases conversion by having the design beneath this. I know that when I open up my phone and Dave here has the video going, my attention is here. It's definitely not scrolling down yet. And if it did scroll down, and this is definitely not what I would want to see as Dave's mug here, so I would want to see maybe some of this stuff. And if I want this message here to be relayed in the video. All right, so the reason why, that's the logic behind making this desktop only. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back. Now the last hack I'm going to teach you here is probably going to be one of the biggest aha you can use at any point in time. Doesn't matter what system you're using, because I know I just talked a little bit about ClickFunnels specifically, but it's about how to essentially funnel hack, as Russell Brunson would say, how to look at what other people are doing and being able to copy it. But even if you're using Instapages or anything else, I find that this is so important, but nobody ever details how to do this, especially when it comes to design. And as one of the greatest mentors in design, Picasso, once said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And so I personally am a fanatic for finding really beautiful brands. I love beautiful brands, and using pieces of all of the beautiful brands. I often go to dribble.com for inspiration, and this is basically a website of the top designers in the world put their stuff on here. I look at Dribbble all the time for inspiration. So let's say I really like this this art here. I think this is really pretty, a really cool website. Wow, I think this is actually gorgeous, don't you? So if I want to pretty much find out how did they build this, how do I get a design that looks similar, what I could do is save this, and I could bring this into Photoshop, and I could try and type next to this and figure out what font are they using by just comparing some of the fonts I have in here, and use the eyedropper tool within Photoshop. But I find that that takes way too long. And so what I did is I ended up finding a couple tools online that I can use here within my Google Chrome extensions, such as this eyedropper tool right here, and I can find the exact color that I like. So maybe I really like this blue button. Now I can just click on that. I can use this now in my own funnels, and I'm going to go to this, bam, and there we go. I can change it just like that. You all see how easy that is? And let's say that I were to go over to, I think that Stripe.com has a beautiful brand. I think they also pay the top designers in the world. And so I trust their opinion on fonts and background colors and all of that. So here's another cool tool I use. It's called Font Finder. And essentially I can go to any website and I can highlight the font that I want to see, and I look, wow, they're using, I can look this CAMPHOR, and now I look it up. I can download it, and there we go. I can also upload this to ClickFunnels if I wanted. So between my font finder and my little eyedropper tool, I can essentially design any page I want. So with that, I hope that this was a very helpful crash course on how to create designs that also convert. Go ahead and click on the next training, and I'll see you on the inside.